We need to get real about something. Shopping is not fun, especially clothes shopping. I hate going into a dressing room with 1,000,001 things hanging over my arm to try on. It's hot, it's sweaty, it's so annoying having to get in and out of all of these different items just to try them on. The mirror, that's a whole nother story. They're awful. And I end up, and I know you do too, liking nothing. Something's gotta give, and this is where Stitch Fix comes in. Stitch Fix makes clothes shopping so much easier. You get a personal stylist that sends you pieces that match your size, style, and everything's in your budget. No guesswork, no stress. Here's how it works. You take a quick style quiz, you share your size, your style and budget, and you get matched with a real human stylist who catches your vibe. It's no risk, all style. Get a personalized fix box straight to your door and try it all on in the comfort of your home. Shipping and returns are always free, and there's no subscription required. Plus, get a free try-on for your first fix. Get started today at stitchfix.com/podcast to get $20 off your first order, and they'll waive your styling fee. That's stitchfix.com/podcast.
The Conjuring Last Rites. On September 5th.
Come down here! I need your help!
The Conjuring Last Rites. Only in theaters September 5th. Rated R.
Good night, itchy eyes. Good night, sudden sneeze. Good night to your symptoms of allergies. Zysol is the allergy medicine you take before bed. It provides powerful relief while you rest your head. Not just all night, but all the next day. Zysol keeps working, keeping allergies at bay. And without those annoying symptoms disturbing your rest, you can wake up the next morning feeling your absolute best. Remember, be wise all. Take Zysol. At night.
Welcome back to the Murder Diaries. I'm Paige.
And I'm Natalie.
Make sure if you want to listen ad-free, you head over to patreon.com/murderdiariespod. And you can also catch us on YouTube now. On April 16th, 2015, 26-year-old Elizabeth Salgado finished school for the day at the Language Center in Provo, Utah. She arrived in Provo just 18 days earlier from Mexico, excited to learn English and surround herself with a community of others who were part of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, better known as Mormonism. Elizabeth was kind and purpose-driven, with a family back home in Mexico who missed her every day. Unfortunately, she never returned to them. When she left school that day, she disappeared. Her remains were found 3 years later, 15 miles from where she was last seen. To this day, there have been no solid leads and no official suspect, and her murder remains unsolved. This is her story.
Used to think it's in my head, but I'm walking with the dead.
Elizabeth Elena Laguna Salgado was born on November 6, 1988, to her father Julio Cesar Laguna Osuna and her mother Libertad Edith Salgado de Laguna in Chiapas, Mexico. She was one of 7 children, the first daughter born to Julio and Libertad. Her mother said that Elizabeth was a role model to her siblings, especially to her sisters, telling BYU's The Daily Universe, "She was always the example here in our home. As the oldest of the girls, she was very obedient, very noble. She had a lot of love." Libertad went on to say that her daughter was a kind, patient person, someone that others would strive to be like. Quote, "She never got angry. There are people who are always angry and annoyed, and she wasn't like that." Not much is public regarding Elizabeth's childhood and how she grew up, but one thing is for certain. She and her family were extremely strong in their faith. In 2004, when Elizabeth was a teenager, the family joined the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Elizabeth dedicated much of her time and energy to her faith and to her family, but this didn't take away from her education. Her mother said that Elizabeth wasn't like most children, and she would study without being asked. She wanted to learn and always came home with good grades, and she was even on the honor roll. Libertad told the Daily Universe, "My daughter was so smart with math, physics, with chemistry. She was so intelligent and she liked it a lot." After graduating high school, Elizabeth attended the Tuxtla Gutierrez Institute of Technology. She graduated with a degree in industrial engineering, following in the footsteps of her parents. Her father, a communications and electrical engineer, her mother, a chemical engineer. After earning her college degree, Elizabeth made a big decision to follow her faith. Her mother explained that one day she came to her and said, "God is so great and powerful. He sent us here to the earth, and we should be grateful for that. I'm going to dedicate 2 years of my life to God to serve a mission." In May of 2013, Elizabeth left home for a mission with the LDS Church in Pachuca, Mexico, in the state of Hidalgo. Those who served with her remembered that she was a bright light, a shining example of what a missionary should be. After returning home from her trip, Elizabeth took a course in business leadership. It wasn't long after that she told her parents about the next step in her plan. She wanted to go live in the United States and learn English. At the time, Elizabeth's English was very limited, and she wanted to open up more opportunities for herself. She believed that learning English would help her do just that and allow her to reach more people as a missionary. Elizabeth told her parents that her plan was to move to Provo, Utah, and enroll in a language academy. Luckily, she wouldn't be completely alone in Provo. Her uncle Rudy lived there. One of the biggest reasons Elizabeth chose Utah was because of its large Mormon population. It was a relatively safe area, and she felt comforted by the fact that she was surrounded by others that shared her faith. With plans to return to Mexico and continue her education after learning English in Provo, Elizabeth moved to Utah in March of 2015.
Though Elizabeth was excited about her move to Provo, excited to start her English classes and looking forward to being a part of the Mormon community, it was difficult for her to leave her family. She was incredibly close to them, and it wasn't lost on her how homesick she was during her mission. But time flew past because she was having so much fun. Her mother told the Daily News, "I told her it would be just like that with her English classes, because it was only 8 months. I told her we would see each other again." But my Elizabeth Elena didn't even last a month there.
Elizabeth's move was official on March 23, 2015. She settled into her apartment at the Branberry, a complex that was mostly filled with students from nearby Brigham Young University, better known as BYU. She was placed with 3 roommates, none of whom spoke Spanish, which made connecting with them difficult. Not long after moving in, Elizabeth told her mother that she wanted to move into a different apartment. She said that her roommates didn't keep the apartment clean and they were constantly bringing people over. One of Elizabeth's sisters recalled her saying that the roommates never bothered to speak to her, even describing them as cold. After 10 days of living in the apartment, Elizabeth was able to switch to a different unit. The new roommates were from Korea, so there was still a language barrier, but it was better than before. They weren't really friends, but Elizabeth told her mom that she had plenty of time to study, read her Bible, and pray. Elizabeth registered at Nomen Global, a local language center, and obtained her student visa. She started attending church at the Provo YSA 140th Ward and threw herself into the Mormon community. Elizabeth always liked to make the most of her time, so she got a job waiting tables at a local Mexican restaurant, one of her uncle's favorites. Her mother told her that she didn't want her working, but Elizabeth protested, explaining that she enjoyed the job because it gave her the opportunity to practice her English with customers. A young man told the Daily News that he was, quote, unofficially assigned to be her minister brother, a church calling that encourages members to serve and befriend one another. He confirmed that Elizabeth had really found her place in the LDS community, saying, "You could tell that she was just excited about everything. She believed in helping and serving other people." He went on to explain further that there were several people at the church who spoke Spanish and really enjoyed speaking with Elizabeth. They could practice their Spanish and she could work on her English. When interviewed by Disappeared, the same young man said that she became one of us.
Elizabeth's family spoke with her often, and they could tell she was enjoying all of the new experiences. But they could also tell that she missed them. Her sister Sarah really struggled with her big sister being so far away. The two were best friends. And Sarah said that they told each other everything. They had no secrets. And she really missed having Elizabeth in the same place as her.
Thursday, April 16th, 2015 was a typical day for Elizabeth. She finished up classes and left school for the day at 1:30 p.m. and began the 2-mile walk back to her apartment just like she always did. Elizabeth didn't have a car or a driver's license, but it never seemed to bother her. Her uncle said she enjoyed walking and was always saying hello and smiling at people passing her on the sidewalk. The route home would take her from school, which was on 400 West, to almost a straight shot down 500 West to her apartment. Assuming that this was the route she walked, Elizabeth would have been in plain view of a lot of people. 500 West was a busy road, and it was the middle of a weekday. She texted her Uncle Rudy earlier, asking if he could drive her to the store later to get some groceries. He responded that he'd pick her up later in the evening and they could go to the nearby Walmart. Sometime around then, Elizabeth's sister Sarah texted her, telling her that she loved her and asking her what she was doing. Elizabeth responded at 2:30 p.m., saying she had just left school. Sarah recalled to Disappeared that the whole vibe of the last text from Elizabeth was off. She said that the response seemed cold and short, which was really unlike her sister. Normally, Elizabeth's texts were really affectionate. She typically kept conversations going, but that day she didn't sound like herself. Sarah messaged back after about 30 minutes, writing, "Cool, have you arrived?" but didn't hear anything else. Worried, she told her mother about the odd exchange. Libertad was immediately concerned. She kept asking Sarah if Elizabeth had read her message or if she'd responded. She hadn't done either. Sarah tried to comfort her mother. She told her not to worry, that maybe Elizabeth was just charging her phone, that she was just busy. Back in Utah, Elizabeth's Uncle Rudy arrived to her apartment at 5:30 p.m., ready to take her to Walmart to get groceries, but when he knocked, there was no response. She should have returned home from school around 2:30 p.m., so it was strange that no one would be home, especially since they had already talked about going to Walmart earlier that day. Rudy called her cell phone, but it went straight to voicemail. Everything about the situation was odd. Hoping that perhaps Elizabeth had gotten a ride from somebody else, Rudy went to Walmart looking down every aisle, thinking that he might see his niece. Unfortunately, he didn't. Rudy's next stop was the Mexican restaurant where Elizabeth worked. He asked them if she'd picked up a shift, but they told her that it was her day off and they hadn't seen or heard from her. Rudy was worried. It was really out of character for Elizabeth to be a no-call, no-show for plans, even if it was just grocery shopping at the local Walmart. Trying to be positive, Rudy assumed that she'd made last-minute plans with friends from church and forgot to loop him in. The next day, now Friday, April 17th, Libertad woke up anxious to check her phone. Elizabeth always texted her and told her good morning or updated her on how her day was going. In fact, the family usually spoke to Elizabeth on the phone 2 to 3 times a day, in addition to text messaging. They did their best to stay in constant contact so Elizabeth didn't get homesick. That's how she knew that something was very wrong when she woke up and found no messages or missed calls from Elizabeth. Panicked, Libertad called her brother Rudy and begged him to find her. She asked him to go to her school and see if anyone knew where she was. Back in Provo, Rudy drove to Nomen Global, the language school, looking for answers. The staff told him that there were no classes on Fridays, so they hadn't seen Elizabeth since she had left school the day before. They suggested that maybe she'd left for the weekend with friends, but Rudy was confident that his niece wouldn't do that without telling anyone. Rudy's next stop was back to Elizabeth's apartment. This time, her roommates were home, but Elizabeth wasn't there. The roommates didn't know where she was and hadn't seen her. Rudy reported back to Libertad, telling her that no one had seen Elizabeth and he couldn't find her. The family was in full panic mode. Libertad called Elizabeth's other uncle, Uncle Rosenberg, who lived in California but had previously lived in Provo, in tears, begging for help. Rosenberg called the restaurant where Elizabeth worked to see if they had seen her yet. They said that Elizabeth was scheduled for a shift that day, but had been a no-call, no-show. This was an immediate red flag for the family. Elizabeth would never leave her job hanging like that without even a phone call. They knew something bad had happened. Libertad's worst fear was that her daughter had been kidnapped and that there was nothing she could do to help. Elizabeth's uncles made contact with the Provo Police Department to report their 26-year-old niece missing. Law enforcement wasn't so sure that something nefarious had happened. Provo was a college town full of people in the LDS church. It was a safe place. The police department would get the occasional missing persons report when one of the college students would run off with friends for the weekend without letting their family know, but they were always back for classes by Monday. All that aside, a patrol officer was dispatched to Elizabeth's apartment, but no one was home. Students at BYU were taking finals, so it wasn't odd that her roommates weren't at the apartment. Detectives attempted to ping Elizabeth's cell phone, but her phone was turned off, so they couldn't get the location. The next day, still without any communication or sighting of Elizabeth, police returned to her apartment complex. They made contact with her first set of roommates, but they hadn't seen or heard from Elizabeth. Police were finally able to track down her current roommates, but they still hadn't seen her either. In fact, they remembered her leaving for class on the morning of Thursday the 16th, but they didn't recall her ever returning. They hadn't seen her since. Detectives checked Elizabeth's bank account, but there was no activity. It was looking less and less like Elizabeth left willingly and more like her family's fears were a reality.
This situation would be incredibly difficult for a family to face if they were local, but the pain and frustration of living in another country was paralyzing for Elizabeth's loved ones. Her parents and siblings applied for an emergency humanitarian visa and sat waiting, helpless, 2,000 miles away.
Detectives began talking to everyone who knew Elizabeth, but the leads and information were very limited. I mean, after all, she'd only been in Provo for less than 3 weeks. She hadn't had much time to make connections or do anything that would make her a target for a crime. Her family told police that Elizabeth was a beautiful girl inside and out. The young man that got to know Elizabeth at church that we talked about earlier said that not many people in the community felt comfortable speaking publicly about her because they didn't know her well enough. Libertad and Sarah told Disappeared that Elizabeth got a lot of attention from men in Provo. They'd invite her out to go to the movies, to dinner, but she never accepted. Elizabeth was flattered by the attention, but her priorities were school and her faith. She was kind to others, but didn't let any of the men distract her from her purpose for being in Provo. Uncle Rosenberg told detectives that he had concerns about a man at Elizabeth's language center. He said that his niece told her that the man had asked her out several times and that he was being pretty aggressive. He wanted to be her boyfriend, but when Elizabeth told him that she wanted nothing to do with him, he'd allegedly gotten pretty upset. Rosenberg only had his first name, but detectives were able to use police databases to track him down. When detectives located the man, he was with several friends at his residence. They separated him from his friends and questioned all of them about his whereabouts and alibi for the day that Elizabeth disappeared. All of their stories lined up, and the man's alibi checked out. He allowed police to look through his vehicle and his residence and was very cooperative. Detectives felt satisfied that the man wasn't involved with Elizabeth's disappearance. It was now Monday, April 20th, 4 days since Elizabeth was last seen. Detective Darren Ringel was now the lead investigator on Elizabeth's case, and he was hoping that she'd still show up to class that day, that she had just been away for the weekend, despite everyone's gut feeling that that wasn't the case. Their gut feelings were right, though. Elizabeth didn't show up to class that Monday. Detective Ringel spoke to her classmates at the language center and was able to get a good description of what Elizabeth had been wearing when she left school on Thursday before she disappeared. Classmates described her wearing blue jeans, a reddish top with cropped jean jacket, tall boots, and a denim handbag with red straps that held her book. Detective Ringel made his way along the route that it was believed Elizabeth would have taken on her walk home that day. He found a group of students who saw her walking, turning towards an intersection. They didn't notice anything out of the ordinary. This was the last believed sighting of Elizabeth before she disappeared. As Detective Ringel continued down the route, he looked for any street-facing cameras at businesses that might have caught her on video. The Utah Valley Hospital was on that route, and Ringel was hopeful when he saw cameras attached to the building. He might be able to determine if Elizabeth had ever made it to that point in her route. Unfortunately, the hospital said that they were undergoing construction and the cameras were facing inwards towards the construction, not the street. Another dead end.
Every lead that detectives followed up on went nowhere. Everyone that they spoke to, interviewed, nothing led anywhere. Frustration was growing within law enforcement, and the family was devastated. Elizabeth had vanished in the middle of the day along a busy road in what was considered one of the safest towns in the western U.S., leaving everyone to wonder, how could no one have seen anything?
Summer is here and it's going fast, but while we're hanging on and enjoying those beach days, last minute weekend getaways, and barbecues, our to-do list isn't getting any shorter. Enter TaskRabbit. TaskRabbit connects you with taskers to help moving, mounting, furniture assembly, home repairs, and all of the things you're trying to get done. Many taskers are available to help the same day too. To get started, go to taskrabbit.com or download the app. You can search the best tasker for your job based on cost, skill set, and availability, and also check out past client reviews. schedule your tasker, and you can even, like I said, do this as early as the same day. Once the tasker has completed the job, you simply pay, tip, and include your own review on the convenient TaskRabbit app. Plus, with TaskRabbit's Happiness Pledge, if you're not satisfied, they're going to work with you to make it right. I love using TaskRabbit, and I can't wait for you to try it too. The next thing that I'm going to be looking for a tasker to do is some light electrical work that I need around the house. I can't wait for some of these weird electrical things I have going on to get figured out and straightened up. And listen, I know if I can't do it, a tasker sure can. Tackle your to-do list today and get $15 off your first task at TaskRabbit.com or on the TaskRabbit app using promo code DIARIES. That's promo code DIARIES at TaskRabbit.com for 15% off your task. TaskRabbit, book trusted help for home tasks.
I think we can all agree that feeling better in your body shouldn't be a full-time job. That's why Hers makes it easier to get started and stick with it. It's backed by expert-guided online care that puts your weight loss goals first. Hers is transforming women's healthcare by providing access to affordable weight loss treatment plans. They connect you with a medical provider who will work with you to determine the best treatment option for you. If you're prescribed, you can get medication as a part of a doctor-developed weight loss program, complete with ongoing care, check-ins, dosage and medication adjustments, and access to 24/7 online support at no additional cost. There aren't any hidden fees, and there are no membership fees. Weight loss by Hers is realistic, not restrictive. Hers provides access to affordable weight loss plans built around oral medication kits and GLP-1 injectable options. With oral medication kits starting at just $69 per month with a 10-month plan when paid up front. This isn't cookie-cutter care that forgets you in the waiting room. It's your health and goals put first, with real medical providers making sure that you get what you need to get results, all from the comfort of your couch. So if you've been struggling with your weight loss journey, it's time you find the best option that works for you through Hers. Whether you want to lose weight, grow thicker, fuller hair, or find relief for anxiety, Hers has you covered. Visit forhers.com/diaries to get a personalized, affordable plan that gets you. That's forhers.com/diaries. forhers.com/diaries. Weight loss by Hers is not available everywhere. Compounded products are not approved or reviewed for safety, effectiveness, or quality by the FDA. Prescription required. See website for full details, important safety information, and restrictions. Actual price depends on product and plan purchased. Hey everyone, it's Natalie. And if you're anything like me and Paige, you need a way to unwind after diving into all of the heavy cases we cover every week. And lately, I've found the perfect escape. It's a mobile game called Scatter Slots, and I've honestly been loving it. Now I know what you're thinking, another slot game, but this one is completely different. Scatter Slots blends dark fantasy, rich storytelling, and gorgeous visuals to create an experience that feels way more like an adventure than a typical game. You play through a map, unlocking these really detailed slot worlds along the way, and each one has its own theme and vibe. And don't get me started on the graphics. So beautiful. I actually caught myself turning the volume up just to hear the music and sound effects. It's that immersive. It's also super easy to jump in and play for a few minutes, whether you're on your lunch break, waiting to pick up the kids, or just need a moment to yourself after a long day. And yes, I did win a mini jackpot my first time playing. No big deal. Whether you're in it for the fun, the wins, or the fantasy, Scatter Slots delivers it all. So what are you waiting for? Download it today and claim 12 million coins to jumpstart your adventure.
Back in 2018, I was looking for a vitamin regimen that I knew I could trust. That's why it was such a relief when my sister told me about Ritual. Their mom founded and third-party tested for heavy metals and microbes. And what else really sold me was that you can see their sources and suppliers behind their key ingredients right there on their website. Besides the vitamins from Ritual that I take, they also offer tailored nutrient support for key phases of pregnancy, from fertility support formulated to support conception outcomes to their essential prenatal and postnatal multi-options, which support key nutrient needs before, during, and after pregnancy. They also have their essential protein daily shake that's formulated specifically for pregnancy and postpartum. On top of all that, they also have their Symbiotic Plus that I take every single day along with my multivitamin. I love Ritual so much that I make sure all of my friends that are having babies and family planning turn to Ritual for their prenatal, pregnancy, and postpartum support. What's also really awesome about Ritual is how easy it is to take. Each capsule has this really cool delayed release design that makes it really gentle even on an empty stomach. Most importantly, it's third-party tested for allergens, microbes, and heavy metals. It's non-GMO, project verified, gluten and major allergen free, and made traceable. When it comes to pregnancy and postpartum support, you want products backed by research and transparency. Mom Founded Ritual puts in the work and shows you the proof. Get 25% off your first month at ritual.com/diaries. That's ritual.com/diaries for 25% off.
It's Wednesday Addams. I see you're trying to distract yourself from your own banal thoughts. Let me help. Here's a recording thing made of my latest root canal.
Wednesday Season 2 is now playing, only on Netflix.
Hey, it's Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. Now, I was looking for fun ways to tell you that Mint's offer of unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month is back. So I thought it would be fun if we made $15 bills. But it turns out that's very illegal. So there goes my big idea for the commercial. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
Before long, another well-known Elizabeth heard about the disappearance and joined the family in asking for help. Elizabeth Smart was just 14 years old when she was abducted in the middle of the night from her family home in Salt Lake City, Utah in June of 2002. She was found alive and brought home after 9 months. Smart's face was everywhere after her kidnapping, which ultimately led to her recovery. Several people who had seen the episode of America's Most Wanted featuring Smart called 911 after recognizing her in Sandy, Utah with her abductors. When Elizabeth Smart heard about Elizabeth Salgado's disappearance, she knew that keeping her face in the media and where people could see it was incredibly important. She told Disappeared that she'd hoped for the same effort, hope, and prayers that she'd received would be made for Elizabeth. 8 days after Elizabeth disappeared, the Smarts joined her Uncle Rudy at a press conference in Provo. Smart told viewers that she really believed that Elizabeth was still alive and that they could bring her home, back to her family. Provo police asked the community for volunteers to help with the search for Elizabeth. Shortly after the press conference, over 300 volunteers met downtown to help scour the area. They followed the route that it was believed Elizabeth would have taken on her walk home from school and expanded off of that. They spent the entire Saturday looking for any sign of her, searching through drainage pipes, construction areas, and overgrown greenery. They covered the entire river trail, but found nothing. Elizabeth's family, along with the help of volunteers and members of the LDS Church, papered the town and surrounding areas with flyers with Elizabeth's picture and information on them. They handed them to anyone walking by, pleading for them to call if they saw anything. Detective Ringel received a lead about a mysterious man, a construction worker, who was a regular at the restaurant where Elizabeth worked. Her family explained that the man had asked her out several times. He told her that she could stop working there and that he would take care of her and buy her everything she needed. Elizabeth shut down his advances, but that didn't stop him from harassing her. She was uncomfortable with how he spoke to her and how he made her feel. The restaurant contacted police when the man turned up again. The manager followed him and gave his location to police so they could speak with him. When police arrived, the man was reportedly very cooperative. He answered questions, allowed them to search his home, and provided a solid alibi. Another dead end.
Elizabeth's family was crushed. Every time there was a new tip or some kind of lead, they'd get their hopes up. They'd wait for answers just to find out the tip was empty, that detectives still didn't have any answers. Law enforcement was just as frustrated. They couldn't understand how they still hadn't uncovered any real leads on what happened to Elizabeth.
Elizabeth's family was still struggling to get their visa approved. Fortunately, the Salt Lake City Mexican consulate helped the family expedite their emergency visa request. 13 days after Elizabeth disappeared, her parents and 2 of her brothers made it to Provo. They drove right into the search, leading marches, vigils, door-to-door campaigns, and handing out flyers. Investigators were able to get Elizabeth's cell phone records and quickly started working on getting in touch with everyone she'd had any sort of contact with. Unfortunately, this, like everything else, led them nowhere. There was no crime scene, no evidence, no suspect, and a young woman who seemingly vanished into thin air. Detective Ringle's next step was to obtain DNA samples from Elizabeth's parents. Because Elizabeth's name and case had been listed in NamUs, if she was found in another agency's jurisdiction, they would be easily able to identify her from her family's DNA. In early May of 2015, Detective Ringle was shocked when he received a phone call from law enforcement in Magna, Utah. Department of Transportation workers had found a body in a large suitcase in a ravine off the highway about 15 miles from Salt Lake City. They believed it to be a young Hispanic female. Provo authorities immediately responded to the area and found that the victim was wearing jeans and a reddish shirt, just like Elizabeth had been. There was a bag over her head so they couldn't see her face. The Salt Lake City medical examiner found a tattoo when examining the victim, and Elizabeth's family denied that she had any tattoos. Even so, detectives knew that it was possible she could have had a tattoo without her family knowing. However, the medical examiner also found a surgical scar that Elizabeth didn't have, proving that the victim in the suitcase was not Elizabeth. Her family breathed a sigh of relief, still holding on to hope. The reward for information leading to Elizabeth's location had continued to increase, from $5,000 ultimately to $50,000 following several donations. With the increase in reward amount, more tips started to come in, including people with ill intentions. Someone even called Uncle Rosenberg and told him that they had Elizabeth, but they needed the money from him first. Authorities traced the call to an abandoned warehouse in Texas that was well known for fraudulent activity. As the search continued, detectives, still unsure of why they couldn't seem to find any real leads, began to focus on those who were close to Elizabeth, specifically her uncles Rudy and Rosenberg. Some in the community were suspicious of them from the start. A man named Alex, who had organized and led multiple searches for Elizabeth, ended up removing himself from the situation because he became so suspicious of Rudy and Rosenberg. He wasn't shy to say he felt the two, quote, cared more about raising money than finding her. Alex went on to tell ABC4 News Utah, "My impression is that they know something. They know information that they are not sharing, like what really happened to Elizabeth. We found some inconsistencies with the stories." Another woman who didn't want to be identified told the same news outlet, "To be honest, I think it's either Rudy alone or Rudy and Rosenberg, both of them. People say that they either probably did something, they either sold her or something for money, or they probably have her against her will hidden somewhere basically to get money out of it." 2 months into the investigation, both uncles took voice analysis tests to assess whether they were telling the truth. Both passed. Shortly after, they both took polygraph tests, which reportedly both showed deception. Rudy and Rosenberg vehemently denied any knowledge or involvement of their niece's disappearance. Detectives continued to investigate them, going through their phone records, but not finding anything that would support them being involved. They were reportedly both very cooperative, despite the frustration of being accused of involvement. Rosenberg told Univision that the accusations were ridiculous, saying it's a big lie. "I don't know why they're trying to speculate things that aren't true. People can say what they want. We have nothing to do with this, and with the grace of God, He's going to help us find my niece." Several months after Elizabeth's disappearance, her father and brothers returned to Mexico, heartbroken that they didn't have her with them. Her mother stayed, continuing the search, standing on street corners and handing out flyers, hoping that someone might have seen something. In June of 2016, she made the impossible decision to return to Mexico without answers. Time continued to pass with no answers about where Elizabeth was. Investigators urged anyone with information to come forward, but the case quickly stalled.
Despite continued pleas from the family, as well as support from Elizabeth Smart and her family, no one came forward. Smart told the media that she still had hope that Elizabeth would be found alive, saying, "I have faith in humanity and this community, and that we can bring her home. You brought me home. Why can't it happen again? Why can't another miracle happen?"
More than 3 years after Elizabeth disappeared, there was finally a break in her case. On May 11, 2018, a man driving through Hobble Creek Canyon just above Springfield, Utah, pulled his vehicle over to use the bathroom. He walked off the road and into some bushes, approximately 30 or so yards from his vehicle. There, he saw what appeared to be a human skull and clothing. The man immediately called authorities. On May 23rd, the Utah State Medical Examiner's Office used dental records to confirm that the remains were that of 26-year-old Elizabeth Salgado. Elizabeth's family was shattered. Her uncle Rosenberg joined law enforcement for a press conference shortly after the identification was made. He told the media, "This is just terrible. I can't believe there are so many evil people in this world that would do that to another human being. We will find you whoever you are. We will find you." Because of where the remains were found, the Utah County Sheriff's Office took over the lead for the investigation. Sheriff Jim Tracy said that the remains were not located on a trail and it wasn't anywhere that had been searched before. Quote, "There was no indication that she was ever in Hobble Creek." Sheriff Tracy said that the exact location was about 15 miles from where Elizabeth was last seen. The sheriff also confirmed that several other items were found at the scene that helped them assist in identifying the remains as belonging to Elizabeth, but didn't clarify what those items were. Not long after the discovery, investigators cleared the man who found the remains of having any involvement in her death, as he was out of the country when she disappeared. Law enforcement now began investigating the case as a homicide. Unfortunately, due to the state of the remains, the medical examiner was unable to determine a cause of death. Though Elizabeth's family was crushed, they were thankful they finally got to lay her to rest. And now more than ever, they were determined to find out who took Elizabeth away from them. The family was able to hire a private investigator. That private investigator began diving into the case, looking for anything that law enforcement might have missed. After months of investigating, there was one lead that stuck out. Elizabeth had attended a church event 4 days before her disappearance near the same area where her remains were eventually found. In 2023, that same private investigator told KSL that they'd been working for months to confirm that Elizabeth was at that event. He was looking for pictures or videos that people might have taken at the event that could show Elizabeth or who she was talking to. This particular lead hasn't been elaborated on further to the public. The family, law enforcement, and the private investigator all believe that whoever murdered Elizabeth was someone that she knew, that she got into a car that day with, someone she'd recognized and felt comfortable with. They believed that the last text sent to Sarah from Elizabeth's phone was not sent by Elizabeth, that it was sent by her killer to make Sarah think that everything was okay. In March of 2021, the private investigator told KSL News that a penny was found at the site where Elizabeth's remains were. It was the exact same location where her body was laid. There's a makeshift headstone out of a cross, and it's in the clearing where her body was found. It was right in the center where her body would have been. He explained that the site was searched with metal detectors 2 years prior, but that penny wasn't located then. Because of how remote the site is, the private investigator felt that the penny could have been left there by someone involved in the case. A DNA profile was created from the penny, which pointed to a male subject. However, no further information has been publicized about any DNA results. Elizabeth's murder still remains unsolved. The Salgado family continues to fight for answers and for justice. Libertad told BYU's The Daily Universe, "I'm not going to surrender. I want to find the killer. I want justice. I want justice. I have been suffering for years, and I will not be content until the police catch the killer." If you or anyone you know has information regarding the murder of Elizabeth Salgado, please contact the Utah County Sheriff's Office at 801-851-4010.
And that's it for this case. Thanks so much for listening. And just a reminder before you leave, new episodes drop every Monday and Thursday. Mondays are all about our unscripted pop culture chats and deep dives. And Thursdays, we bring you ethical true crime case coverage. Be sure to follow us on social media at the Murder Diaries Pod. We're everywhere from TikTok and YouTube to Instagram. See you next time. And until then,
Stay safe.
Bye.
Bye.
I think we can all agree that feeling better in your body shouldn't be a full-time job. That's why Hers makes it easier to get started and stick with it. It's backed by expert-guided online care that puts your weight loss goals
first. Hers is transforming women's healthcare by providing access to affordable weight loss treatment plans. They connect you with a medical provider who will work with you to determine the best treatment option for you. If you're prescribed, you can get medication as a part of a doctor-developed weight loss program, complete with ongoing care, check-ins, dosage and medication adjustments, and access to 24/7 online support at no additional cost. There aren't any hidden fees, and there are no membership fees. Weight loss by Hers is realistic, not restrictive. Hers provides access to affordable weight loss plans built around oral medication kits and GLP-1 injectable options, with oral medication kits starting at just $69 per month with a 10-month plan when paid up front. This isn't cookie-cutter care that forgets you in the waiting room. It's your health and goals put first, with real medical providers making sure that you get what you need to get results, all from the comfort of your couch. So if you've been struggling with your weight loss journey, it's time you find the best option that works for you through Hers. Whether you want to lose weight, grow thicker, fuller hair, or find relief for anxiety, Hers has you covered. Visit forhers.com/diaries to get a personalized, affordable plan that gets you. That's forhers.com/diaries. forhers.com/diaries. Weight loss by Hers is not available everywhere. Compounded products are not approved or reviewed for safety, effectiveness, or quality by the FDA. Prescription required. See website for full details, important safety information, and restrictions. Actual price depends on product and plan purchased. Hey everyone, it's Natalie. And if you're anything like me and Paige, you need a way to unwind after diving into all of the heavy cases we cover every week. And lately, I've found the perfect escape. It's a mobile game called Scatter Slots, and I've honestly been loving it. Now I know what you're thinking, another slot game, but this one is completely different. Scatter Slots blends dark fantasy, rich storytelling, and gorgeous visuals to create an experience that feels way more like an adventure than a typical game. You play through a map, unlocking these really detailed slot worlds along the way, and each one has its own theme and vibe. And don't get me started on the graphics. So beautiful. I actually caught myself turning the volume up just to hear the music and sound effects. It's that immersive. It's also super easy to jump in and play for a few minutes, whether you're on your lunch break, waiting to pick up the kids, or just need a moment to yourself after a long day. And yes, I did win a mini jackpot my first time playing. No big deal. Whether you're in it for the fun, the wins, or the fantasy, Scatter Slots delivers it all. So what are you waiting for? Download it today and claim 12 million coins to jumpstart your adventure.
Back in 2018, I was looking for a vitamin regimen that I knew I could trust. That's why it was such a relief when my sister told me about Ritual. They're mom-founded and third-party tested for heavy metals and microbes. And what else really sold me was that you can see their sources and suppliers behind their key ingredients right there on their website. Besides the vitamins from Ritual that I take, they also offer tailored nutrient support for key phases of pregnancy, from fertility support formulated to support conception outcomes to their essential prenatal and postnatal multi-options, which support key nutrient needs before, during, and after pregnancy. They also have their essential protein daily shake that's formulated specifically for pregnancy and postpartum. On top of all that, they also have their Symbiotic Plus that I take every single day along with my multivitamin. I love Ritual so much that I make sure all of my friends that are having babies and family planning turn to Ritual for their prenatal, pregnancy, and postpartum support. What's also really awesome about Ritual is how easy it is to take. Each capsule has this really cool delayed release design that makes it really gentle even on an empty stomach. Most importantly, it's third-party tested for allergens, microbes, and heavy metals. It's non-GMO, project verified, gluten and major allergen free, and made traceable. When it comes to pregnancy and postpartum support, you want products backed by research and transparency. Mom-founded Ritual puts in the work and shows you the proof. Get 25% off your first month at ritual.com/diaries. That's ritual.com/diaries for 25% off.